They came without warning, and they came to destroy us. Fleets of alien warships emerged from the depths of space, descending upon Earth in a coordinated assault of unimaginable scale. The Cardassians, Krell, and Ferengi, three ruthless empires united in their contempt for humanity, unleashed a storm of destruction that shattered cities and turned continents into smoldering wastelands. Billions perished in the opening salvo as the invaders rained fire from the heavens, their advanced weaponry tearing through humanity's feeble defenses like a hot knife through butter. Amidst the chaos and carnage, a soldier named Philip Thompson clawed his way out of the ruins of San Francisco. Battered and bloodied, he watched helplessly as the alien dropships disgorged hordes of merciless troops, their sole purpose to exterminate every last human. Rage and despair warred within Philip as he realized the true nature of the attack: a xenocide, a systematic annihilation of his species. But even in the face of overwhelming odds, the spark of defiance refused to be snuffed out. Philip rallied other survivors, forging them into a guerrilla resistance determined to strike back against the alien juggernaut. They ambushed enemy patrols, sabotaged equipment, and gathered intel on the invaders' campaign of slaughter. During one daring raid, Philip's team infiltrated an alien outpost and overheard Commander Antares, the Ferengi leader, mocking Earth as an insignificant speck unworthy of existence. The callous words ignited a burning resolve within Philip to prove the alien wrong and make them pay for underestimating human tenacity. Outnumbered and outgunned, the resistance fights on, driven by whispers of an ancient alien artifact hidden on Earth, a device rumored to possess the power to move entire star systems. In a desperate race against time and pursued by relentless alien hunters, Philip and his band of survivors embark on a quest to uncover this lost technology, knowing it may be humanity's last hope for survival. The fate of Earth and its place in the cosmos hangs in the balance as the battle for the future begins. As the resistance delved into the mysteries of the celestial engine, Philip pored over ancient texts and fragmented records, seeking any clue to the artifact's location. Deep in the archives, a faded map caught his eye, its cryptic symbols hinting at a hidden canyon in the Nevada desert. With a flash of recognition, Philip realized the map pointed to the ruins of Area 51, the legendary base shrouded in secrecy and conspiracy. Philip gathered his most trusted companions, Mike Donovan, his right-hand man and a hardened fighter, and Samantha Hawkins, a brilliant tech expert with a knack for deciphering alien technology. Together, they set out on a perilous journey across the war-ravaged landscape, dodging alien patrols and navigating treacherous terrain. As they approached the coordinates indicated on the map, the team found themselves in a desolate canyon, its towering walls etched with strange glyphs that seemed to pulse with an otherworldly energy. Suddenly, the sound of alien craft filled the air, and a swarm of enemy soldiers descended upon them, weapons blazing. Philip and his team fought with the ferocity of cornered animals, their skills honed by months of guerrilla warfare. Plasma bolts sizzled through the air as they took cover behind boulders and returned fire, determined to reach their goal. With a final push, they broke through the alien lines and raced into a hidden cavern where the celestial engine awaited. The artifact was a sight to behold, a massive crystalline structure that thrummed with power, its surface covered in intricate patterns and symbols. Samantha's eyes widened as she approached it, her mind racing with the possibilities of what such advanced technology could achieve. Back at their secret base, Samantha and a team of resistance scientists worked tirelessly to unravel the secrets of the celestial engine. They discovered that the device could manipulate gravity on an unprecedented scale, capable of moving entire planets and stars. However, the complexity of the technology was staggering, and progress was slow. As the resistance studied the artifact, Commander Antares seethed with rage upon learning of the stolen device. He summoned his most ruthless general, a battle-hardened Krell named Zorax, and tasked him with hunting down the human rebels and retrieving the celestial engine at any cost. Zorax launched a devastating assault on the Resistance's underground hideout, his forces storming the base with overwhelming firepower. In the chaos of the battle, Mike Donovan was captured by the alien soldiers. His fate unknown as Philip made the heart-wrenching decision to flee with the artifact, knowing it was the only hope for humanity's survival. As the resistance retreated deeper into the shadows, Zorax subjected Mike to brutal interrogation, seeking the location of the celestial engine. Mike's screams echoed through the alien compound, a testament to the unyielding perseverance of the human spirit in the face of unimaginable cruelty. Meanwhile, Samantha and her team worked around the clock, reverse engineering components of the celestial engine to create a device capable of moving the entire solar system. The challenges were immense and setbacks were frequent, but they persevered, driven by the knowledge that failure meant extinction. Whispers reached the resistance of a gathering of the Alien Alliance's supreme overlords, the Cardassian Emperor Xyloth, the Krell Matriarch Viana, and the Ferengi High Chancellor Crux. The alien leaders were meeting on a heavily fortified space station to discuss the final subjugation of Earth and the eradication of the human race. Philip saw an opportunity to strike a crippling blow to the alien war machine. He assembled a team of his most skilled fighters, including a battered but unbroken Mike and a determined Samantha, for a daring mission to infiltrate the space station and eliminate the supreme overlords. As they prepared for the assault, Samantha voiced her concerns about the morality of assassination, arguing that it lowered them to the level of their alien oppressors. Philip countered that in a war for survival, they must be willing to do whatever it takes. The ethical dilemma burdened immensely on the team as they steeled themselves for the impending strike. The fate of humanity hung by a thread as Philip and his team embarked on their desperate mission. They knew that success could turn the tide of the war, but failure would mean the end of all they fought for. With unbreakable spirit, they set course for the space station, ready to face the gathering storm and the battle that would decide the future of Earth. The space station loomed before them, a behemoth of twisted metal and pulsing energy fields. Philip gripped the controls of the stolen alien shuttle, his fingers tightening beneath his gloves. Beside him, Mike and Samantha exchanged tense glances as they approached the docking bay. "Stealth systems holding," Samantha whispered, her eyes darting across the flickering displays. "We're clear for approach." The shuttle glided into the cavernous hangar, settling onto the deck with a soft hiss. Philip's team moved swiftly, donning their alien disguises with practiced efficiency. The air felt thick with danger as they stepped out onto the station's gleaming floors. "Remember the plan," Philip said, his voice low. "Mike and I will handle the overlords. Samantha, you and your team plant those charges. We rendezvous at the extraction point in 30 minutes. They split up, each group melting into the station's labyrinthine corridors. Philip and Mike moved with purposeful strides, mimicking the alien gait they'd studied for weeks. As they neared the council chamber, the sound of plasma fire erupted from behind. "Our cover's blown," Mike hissed, drawing his weapon. They charged forward, bursting into the opulent chamber where the Supreme Overlord sat in stunned silence. Chaos erupted as honor guards poured in from hidden alcoves. Philip ducked behind an ornate pillar, the acrid smell of ozone filling his nostrils, as energy bolts sizzled past. He caught glimpses of the alien leaders scrambling for safety, Emperor Xyloth's scaled hide glistening under the chamber's harsh lights, Matriarch Viana's tentacles writhing in panic, Chancellor Crux's beady eyes wide with fear. Mike let out a pained grunt as a bolt caught him in the shoulder, but he kept firing. His willpower fueled by months of torture, he charged forward, taking down guard after guard. Philip seized the moment, vaulting over a fallen table and closing in on the overlords. 3 quick bursts from his weapon, and the leaders of the Alien Alliance crumpled to the ground. "It's done," Philip breathed, the weight of what they had accomplished settling over him. A crackle of static, then Samantha's voice came through their comms. "Charges are set, but we're pinned down. I can't—" Her words cut off in a hail of weapons fire. "Sam, we're coming!" Philip shouted, already moving towards the door. But Mike's hand on his arm stopped him. "Phil," Mike rasped, his face pale from blood loss. "We have to go. Now!" For a heartbeat, Philip wavered. Then Samantha's voice came through again, filled with grim purpose. "Get out of here. I'll hold them off. Detonate on my signal." "Samantha, no." "Do it, Philip. This is bigger than any of us." Torn between duty and friendship, Philip made the hardest choice of his life. He and Mike staggered to the shuttle, leaving behind the sounds of Samantha's last stand. As they cleared the station's defense perimeter, Philip's hand hovered over the detonator. "Now, Philip, do it now!" Samantha's final transmission crackled through the comms. Philip closed his eyes and pressed the button. The station erupted in a silent blossom of fire and debris, taking with it the alien leadership and one of humanity's bravest defenders. Back on Earth, the Resistance's underground base hummed with activity. Screens flickered with reports of successful raids on alien strongholds. Freed humans stumbled out of labor camps, blinking in the sunlight of a world slowly being reclaimed. But for Philip, the victory felt hollow. He stood before a makeshift memorial, Samantha's battered datapad serving as a grim reminder of the cost of their success. The weight of command, of the lives lost and the choices made, pressed down on him like a physical force. A commotion near the command center drew his attention. Dr. Elena Ivanova, her lab coat stained and torn, was being ushered in along with a group of haggard-looking scientists. Philip's spirits lifted slightly at the sight. With Ivanova's expertise, they might finally unlock the full potential of the celestial engine. As he moved to greet the newcomers, an alarm blared through the base. Reports flooded in of a massive alien fleet mobilizing near Jupiter. At its head, a sleek command ship unlike any they'd seen before. On the main view screen, the cold, serpentine features of Admiral Zaris filled the frame. Her voice, a sibilant hiss, echoed through the command center. "Humans, your pitiful resistance ends now. Prepare for annihilation." Philip's teeth gritted as he surveyed the grim faces of his fellow resistance fighters. The real test was yet to come. Philip's eyes narrowed as Admiral Zaris's face vanished from the view screen. He turned to his assembled team, their faces a mixture of persistence and fear. "We've come too far to falter now," he said, his voice steady. "Dr. Ivanova, what's our status on the celestial engine?" Elena Ivanova pushed her disheveled hair back from her face. "We're close, Philip, but without a stable power source, we can't achieve the gravitational manipulation required." "No Valium," Mike interjected, his injured shoulder bandaged but still causing him to wince. "It's the only substance capable of powering the device." Philip nodded grimly. "And the only supply large enough is in the asteroid belt, under heavy alien control." The resistance leader outlined his audacious plan to infiltrate the mining facilities. Within hours, a small team was assembled. Philip, Dr. Ivanova, Mike, and a handful of their most skilled operatives boarded a modified stealth shuttle. As they approached the asteroid belt, the vastness of the mining operation became clear. Massive freighters ferried raw materials between the asteroids and the processing stations. Alien fighters patrolled in tight formation. "There," Dr. Ivanova whispered, pointing to a mammoth transport ship docked at one of the larger asteroids. "That's our target." Philip guided their shuttle through the debris field, using the asteroids for cover. They touched down on the transport's hull, magnetic clamps securing them in place. Using plasma torches, they cut their way inside. The corridors were cramped and dimly lit, forcing them to move in single file. They encountered minimal resistance. The alien crew never expecting an assault this deep in their territory. In the cargo hold, they found their prize, raw novalium, pulsing with latent energy. As Dr. Ivanova began the delicate process of securing the volatile material, alarms blared throughout the ship. "We've been made," Mike growled, readying his weapon. Philip's team fought their way to the bridge, dispatching the alien crew with ruthless efficiency. He slid into the pilot's seat, fingers dancing across the unfamiliar controls. The massive transport lurched away from the docking port. For a moment, it seemed they might escape undetected. Then a transmission crackled through the comms. "Unidentified vessel, this is Admiral Zaris. You are ordered to power down immediately." Philip cut the transmission, pushing the lumbering ship to its limits. But they were hopelessly outmatched in speed and maneuverability. Plasma bolts rocked the transport, shields failing under the onslaught. Fires erupted in multiple sections. Philip knew they couldn't outrun their pursuers. Mike limped onto the bridge, his face etched with pain and drive. "I've got an idea," he said, "but you're not going to like it." Minutes later, as alien fighters closed in for the kill, the cargo bay doors of the transport yawned open. Hundreds of tons of raw novalium spilled into space, creating a shimmering cloud of destructive potential. The pursuing ships plowed into the novalium field. Explosions blossomed in the void as the unstable element reacted violently with their energy shields. Through the chaos, the battered transport limped away, a trail of venting atmosphere marking its passage. They had escaped with a fraction of their original haul, but it would have to be enough. Back on Earth, in the Resistance's underground base, Dr. Ivanova worked feverishly to integrate the novalium into the celestial engine. Philip paced nearby, acutely aware of the sacrifices made to reach this point. A low hum filled the air as the device powered up. Ivanova's eyes widened as she studied the readouts. "It's working," she breathed. "We can actually move the entire solar system." Before Philip could respond, proximity alarms shrieked to life. On the main display, a massive alien fleet appeared, emerging from hyperspace. At its center loomed Admiral Zaris's flagship, a leviathan of gleaming metal and pulsing energy weapons. "All resistance forces, this is Philip," he broadcast on all channels. "Initiate emergency protocols. We launch now." Across the globe, hidden bunkers emptied as the last remnants of humanity raced to board the ragtag fleet of starships. The celestial engine's power built to a crescendo, reality itself seeming to warp around them. As the alien armada closed in, Philip gave the order. Dr. Ivanova activated the device, unleashing forces beyond comprehension. The solar system shuddered, wrenched free from its orbit by colossal gravitational energies. Stars blurred into streaks of light as they hurtled through space at impossible speeds. Planets groaned under the strain, their surfaces rippling like pond water. And all around them, the fabric of space-time contorted, barely containing the power of their passage. Philip gripped the arms of his command chair, watching as alien vessels were flung aside by the shockwave of their departure. His mind reeled at the enormity of what they had done, and the perilous journey that lay ahead. Ahead, uncharted space stretched before them, filled with both promise and peril. The solar system's wild journey through space came to an abrupt halt as proximity alarms blared once more. Philip's eyes widened as he took in the sight on the main view screen. A massive alien fleet materialized from the depths of space, their ships sleek and menacing against the backdrop of unfamiliar stars. "Admiral Zaris," Philip growled, recognizing the distinctive silhouette of her flagship. The comm crackled to life, Admiral Zaris's sibilant voice filling the command center. "Did you really think you could escape us so easily, humans?" Philip's mind raced, calculating their odds. The human fleet was battered, their resources stretched thin, but they had come too far to surrender now. "All ships, battle stations," he ordered, his voice steady despite the gravity of the situation. "We make our stand here." The void erupted in a cacophony of weapons fire as the two fleets clashed. Human starfighters darted between massive alien dreadnoughts, their plasma cannons leaving scorch marks on the enemy hulls. The solar system itself became a battlefield, as orbital defense platforms unleashed barrages that shook the very fabric of space. Dr. Ivanova's voice cut through the chaos. "Philip, the celestial engine can't take much more of this. The magnetosphere is destabilizing." Philip's eyes locked onto Admiral Zaris's flagship, a colossal vessel dripping with weapons. A desperate plan formed in his mind. "Mike," he called out, "prep the old Falcon. We're going in." Minutes later, Philip found himself at the controls of an antiquated Earth rocket, its hold laden with raw novalium. The stolen alien shuttle had been good, but this felt like coming home. "This is insanity," Mike muttered from the co-pilot's seat, his hands dancing across the controls. Philip allowed himself a grim smile. When has that ever stopped us? The rocket screamed across the battlefield, weaving through the deadly crossfire. Philip's world narrowed to a single point, the pulsing reactor core of Zaris' flagship, visible through a gash in its hull. Impact in 3, 2, 1. The collision sent shockwaves through space. Novalium met alien technology in a cataclysmic reaction that tore through the flagship's superstructure. The resulting explosion was like a newborn star, momentarily outshining the entire battlefield. As the light faded, Philip found himself floating in the escape pod, Mike unconscious beside him. Through the viewport, he watched as the remnants of the alien fleet scattered, their formation shattered by the loss of their leader. The comms crackled to life. "Philip? Philip? Do you read?" Dr. Ivanova's voice was thick with concern. "We're here," he responded, relief washing over him. "Status report?" "The alien blockade is broken, but the celestial engine is critically low on power. We need to find a safe harbor, and fast." Philip's gaze swept across the unfamiliar starfield. "Set course for the nearest habitable system. It's time we found a new home." Days blurred together as the battered human fleet limped through the Triangulum galaxy. Dr. Ivanova worked tirelessly, coaxing every last ounce of power from the celestial engine as she guided them through treacherous cosmic terrain. Finally, scanners picked up a promising signal, a dwarf galaxy teeming with resources and largely unexplored. As they approached, Philip made the difficult decision to scatter the fleet, hoping to throw off any potential pursuers. The solar system itself barreled onward, slingshotting through unstable wormholes and narrowly avoiding stellar hazards. With a final, sputtering burst from the celestial engine, they emerged into the new galaxy, settling into a stable orbit around an unremarkable yellow star. As the fleet regrouped near the system's outer planets, Philip led an advance team to a promising moon. Their shuttle touched down on its cratered surface, kicking up plumes of alien dust. "Fan out," Philip ordered, his voice tense. "Stay alert for any signs of—" He froze mid-sentence, staring at the horizon. Rising from the lunar landscape were the unmistakable outlines of structures, vast and alien, yet unmistakably artificial. "My God," Dr. Ivanova breathed, her scanner beeping urgently. "Philip, you need to see this." She handed him the device, its screen displaying a cross-section of the moon's interior. Deep beneath the surface lay a perfectly preserved bunker, filled with technology beyond their wildest dreams. As they descended into the ancient facility, Philip couldn't shake the feeling that they had stumbled upon something far greater and far more terrible than they could have imagined. The real test of humanity's perseverance was just beginning. Philip's breath caught in his throat as he descended deeper into the alien bunker. The air hummed with dormant energy, and holographic displays flickered to life as they passed, revealing schematics of technology beyond human comprehension. "This is Anahil," Dr. Ivanova whispered, her eyes wide as she scanned the intricate symbols. "An ancient race, thought to be mere legend." As they explored further, the true scope of their discovery became clear. Weapons capable of reshaping reality itself, ships that could traverse galaxies in the blink of an eye, and something far more ominous, a defense system that could spell doom for organic life. Back on the surface, Philip called an emergency meeting of the human leadership. The debate raged for hours, tensions rising as the implications sank in. "We must seize this opportunity," General Frank Madigan growled, thumping his hand on the table. "With this power, we can crush the alien alliance once and for all." Dr. Ivanova shook her head vehemently. "The risks are too great. We don't understand even a fraction of this technology. Misuse could have catastrophic consequences." Philip rubbed his temples, feeling the weight of the decision. "We'll do both," he said finally. "Dr. Ivanova, establish a research division to study these artifacts. General Madigan, focus on fortifying our defenses and training our forces. We need to be prepared for anything." Months passed as human outposts spread across the dwarf galaxy. Philip oversaw the expansion, but his thoughts constantly returned to the Anahil technology. Dr. Ivanova's team made slow progress until a breakthrough came in decrypting the archival data. "Coordinates," she reported, her voice tinged with excitement. "To an Anahil shipyard, hidden in a dust cloud at the galactic core." The expedition to the shipyard left Philip awestruck. A sprawling automated facility stretched before them, filled with vessels that defied conventional physics. "Begin production," he ordered, knowing the human colonists needed every advantage. As Anahil-inspired ships and weapons rolled off the assembly lines, a sense of unease gnawed at Philip. The power at their fingertips was intoxicating, but at what cost? His fears were realized when alarms blared across the facility. A shimmering cloud of nanobots erupted from a malfunctioning construction unit, consuming organic matter with terrifying efficiency. "Evacuate!" Philip shouted, watching in horror as colonists were reduced to ash. Dr. Ivanova's voice crackled over the comms. "I can contain it, but I need to get to the Anahill reactor." Philip watched helplessly as she raced through the facility, the nanoswarm nipping at her heels. With seconds to spare, she activated a force field, trapping the deadly cloud. The incident deepened the ideological divide among the colonies. General Madigan's call for aggressive expansion grew louder, while Dr. Ivanova urged caution. Philip tried to maintain balance, but the situation spiraled out of control. A defector revealed Ivanova's efforts to limit weapon capabilities, and Madigan seized the opportunity. In a lightning strike, Madigan's forces stormed the research facilities. Philip could only watch as Dr. Ivanova and her loyal scientists were led away in restraints. "This is for the good of humanity," Madigan declared, his voice echoing through the colony's communication channels. "We will no longer be held back by fearmongers and dissidents." Philip found himself stripped of authority, a figurehead trapped in a gilded cage. He could only watch as Madigan accelerated the construction of a terrifying superweapon, the cosmic subjugator. In the depths of night, a message reached Philip from the imprisoned Dr. Ivanova. Her words chilled him to the bone. "They don't understand what they're dealing with. You have to stop them." With a handful of loyal supporters, Philip fled to the shipyards, but as human forces clashed in the ancient facility, a familiar shimmer filled the air. The Anahill nanodefenses had reawakened, indiscriminately consuming organic matter on both sides. In the chaos, Madigan activated the cosmic subjugator. Reality itself seemed to warp and bend as the weapon powered up. Philip's stolen ship barely cleared the blast radius as an unstable anomaly erupted, beginning to devour the very fabric of the dwarf galaxy. As stars winked out of existence behind them, Philip gripped the controls of his ship. The enormity of their situation crashed over him. They had unleashed a power beyond their control, and now the fate of humanity hung in the balance. Philip's ship hurtled through the void, stars vanishing behind them as the dwarf galaxy collapsed into nothingness. The cosmic subjugator's power had been beyond imagination, consuming everything in its path. "Status report," Philip barked, his squeezing hard on the controls. 37 ships accounted for, his second-in-command replied, voice tight. "Mostly civilian transports. We're all that's left." Philip swallowed hard, pushing aside the weight of their loss. There would be time to mourn later. Now, they needed to survive. Days later, the ragtag fleet limped into a secure shipyard outpost, hidden in the folds of a nebula. As soon as they docked, Philip called an emergency meeting of the remaining human leadership. "We can't let this happen again," he said, gesturing to the holomap of their devastated territory. "The Anahill technology is too dangerous in the wrong hands." Before they could formulate a plan, alarms blared throughout the station. Madigan's forces had tracked them, launching a surprise assault on the outpost. Chaos erupted as Philip coordinated the defense. He sprinted through corridors filled with acrid smoke, barking orders into his comm unit. A massive explosion rocked the station, and Philip stumbled into a maintenance bay. There he found Dr. Ivanova slumped against a bulkhead, blood seeping from a jagged wound in her side. "Philip," she gasped, grasping his arm. "The civilians, did they—" "They're safe," he assured her, applying pressure to the wound. "We need to get you to medical—" Ivanova shook her head, her breath ragged. "No time. Listen carefully." With trembling fingers, she pressed a data chip into his hand. "Master control overrides," she whispered. "For the Genesis Cedar facility. It can rewrite reality, terraform worlds. Use it wisely, Philip. Save our people." Her eyes fluttered closed, and Philip felt her go limp in his arms. Grief threatened to overwhelm him, but the sounds of battle pulled him back to the present. Pocketing the chip, Philip made his way to the command center. The Genesis Cedars could be their salvation, but first, they needed to survive this assault. "All hands, prepare for immediate evacuation," he ordered. "We're abandoning the outpost." As their ship slipped away under the cover of the nebula's thick gases, Philip studied the schematics of the Genesis Cedar facility. It was their best hope for a new beginning, but reaching it would be no easy task. The artificial planet loomed before them, a testament to Hill engineering. Philip led a small strike team, their stealth shuttle weaving between the facility's automated defenses. Inside, they encountered layers of security beyond human comprehension. Philip's fingers flew across alien control panels, inputting the override codes Ivanova had given him. Ancient machinery hummed to life around them. "Sir," one of his team called out, pointing to a view screen. "Look!" A barren, cratered world filled the display. Philip took a deep breath and activated the Genesis Cedar protocol. The effect was immediate and awe-inspiring. Clouds formed in the airless sky. Oceans filled craters. Green spread across the surface like a time-lapse of spring. In mere days, a dead rock had become a vibrant, Earth-like paradise. Word of their achievement spread quickly. Human colonies, torn apart by civil war, began to unite under the promise of a fresh start. Even Madigan's forces, seeing the potential for peaceful expansion, began to lay down their arms. But as Philip prepared to address the newly unified human leadership, alarms blared once more. A splinter group led by Drake, Madigan's ruthless enforcer, had made their move. Philip's world exploded in pain as a stun baton connected with his ribs. He found himself bound in a dark room, Drake's face looming over him. "Where are the rest of the override codes?" Drake snarled, brandishing the baton. "Tell me, or watch as I reduce your precious new world to ash." Through swollen eyes, Philip saw the Genesis Cedars being prepared for launch. But these weren't aimed at dead worlds. Drake was targeting the Alien Alliance's core systems. As the first volley of Cedars streaked away, alarms began to wail. On the monitors, a shimmering cloud emerged from the depths of space. The Hill hunter swarms, awakened by the unauthorized use of their technology. Philip watched in horror as the nanite fleets consumed everything in their path, heedless of friend or foe. He had mere moments to act before the swarms reached human space, but with Drake's gun pressed to his temple, the fate of humanity hung in an impossible balance. Philip's vision swam as Drake pressed the gun harder against his temple. The alarms blared incessantly, their shrill wails piercing through the chaos. On the monitors, streams of shimmering particles coalesced into an unstoppable tide. The Hill hunter swarms had awakened. "You've doomed us all," Philip spat, his voice raw with desperation. Drake's eyes widened as he watched the nanite fleets consume everything in their path. His grip on the weapon faltered for a split second, and Philip seized the opportunity. He twisted, driving his elbow into Drake's solar plexus. The gun clattered to the floor as they grappled. "Emergency Protocol Omega," Philip shouted into his wrist communicator as he struggled with Drake. "All outposts and ships, evacuate the dwarf galaxy immediately." Across human-controlled space, klaxons sounded. Panicked voices filled comm channels as fleets scrambled to escape the oncoming storm of nanobots. Philip finally overpowered Drake, slamming him against a control panel. "You're coming with me," he growled, cuffing the traitor. "We need to reach the Hill control facility." They raced through corridors, teeming with frantic personnel. Philip's elite team was already assembled at the hangar, their faces grim as they boarded a stealth shuttle. As they lifted off, the viewport filled with the horrifying sight of entire worlds being sterilized by the ravenous swarms. The ancient Hill facility loomed before them, a titanic structure of impossible geometries. Philip led the charge, his team battling through waves of homicidal nanobots that swarmed like liquid metal. They left a trail of discord grenades in their wake, the electromagnetic pulses buying them precious seconds. At last, they reached the primary neural core, a towering pillar of crystalline circuitry. Philip's fingers flew across alien control surfaces, but error messages flashed in an incomprehensible script. "It's corrupted beyond repair," he muttered, frustration building. He turned to Drake, who stood sullenly nearby. "You wanted control? Now's your chance. Help us shut down the swarms, and I'll grant you full amnesty." Drake's eyes narrowed, calculating. After a long moment, he nodded and stepped forward. His hands moved with surprising familiarity over the Hill systems. For a brief, hopeful moment, it seemed they might succeed. Then Drake's lips curled into a sneer. He spun, wrenching a weapon from one of Philip's team. "You're a fool, Garrett," he snarled, firing wildly. Chaos erupted in the control room. Philip dove for cover as energy bolts scorched the air. Through the din of combat, he heard Drake inputting commands into the Anahil systems. "No!" Philip roared, realizing what was happening. But it was too late. Drake had succeeded in diverting the swarms, focusing their attention on their current location. A sea of silver death converged on the facility. Plasma fire caught Drake in the chest, and he crumpled to the floor. His final act had been one of betrayal. Philip could see data streams indicating Drake's hardliner sect had fled with a captured Genesis Seeder. There was no time left. Philip's fingers flew across the controls, initiating the facility's self-destruct sequence. "Everyone out!" he shouted to his remaining team. They sprinted through disintegrating corridors as the structure began to implode. Philip's shuttle barely cleared the blast radius as the swarm command nexus detonated in a cataclysmic explosion. But even as the nexus was obliterated, Philip watched in horror as uncontrollable nanite clouds vented across the galaxy. The human fleets pushed their engines to the limit, a desperate race against the steadily expanding wave of swarms. Philip's comm crackled to life, and a familiar voice filled the cabin. "Philip, this is Artemis," the AI successor to Dr. Ivanova spoke. "I have a plan, but it's risky." As Artemis outlined the daring gambit, Philip felt a glimmer of hope. It was insane, but it was their only chance. He opened a channel to all remaining human ships. "This is Admiral Garrett," he announced, his voice steady despite the weight of the moment. "Prepare for immediate transit. We're leaving Triangulum." The celestial engine's massive form came into view, its ancient superstructure humming with residual power. As the first tendrils of the hunter swarms reached the outlying ships, Artemis began the calculations. Space itself seemed to twist and buckle as the engine's remaining capacitors discharged. A yawning chasm of swirling energy tore open before them, an unstable wormhole leading into the unknown. "All ships commence evacuation," Philip ordered. "Rearguard, hold the line." Brave crews engaged in desperate holding actions, sacrificing themselves to buy time as the evacuation began. Philip watched the sensor readings, his heart heavy as ship after ship winked out of existence, some consumed by swarms, others plunging into the chaotic subspace conduit. At last, only Philip's vessel remained. The hunter swarms filled his view screen, a silver tide of extinction bearing down upon them. He gripped the controls, whispering a silent prayer as he aimed for the collapsing aperture. "Punch it!" he roared. The ship surged forward, reality itself seeming to stretch and distort around them. As they crossed the event horizon, Philip caught one last glimpse of the swarms overtaking their entry point. Then the wormhole collapsed, and everything went black. Philip's world exploded into chaos as his ship emerged from the collapsing wormhole. Alarms blared, and emergency lights bathed the bridge in an eerie red glow. Through the viewport, he saw the scattered remnants of the human fleet tumbling through a nightmarish void. "Status report," he barked, fighting to keep his footing as the ship lurched violently. "Multiple hull breaches, sir," his tactical officer shouted. "We've lost contact with—" The officer's words cut off in a strangled scream as a writhing mass of tentacles burst through a nearby bulkhead. Philip watched in horror as the monstrosity engulfed the man, dragging him into the shadows. "All hands! Battle stations!" Philip roared into the ship-wide comm. "Repel boarders!" The next hours blurred into a frantic struggle for survival. Philip led counterattacks through blood-slicked corridors, the air thick with the acrid stench of gunpowder and alien ichor. He watched good men and women torn apart by horrors that defied description, nightmarish amalgamations of flesh and shadow that seemed to phase through solid matter. In the weapons bay, Philip made a desperate gamble. "Load the nukes," he ordered, gesturing to a row of archaic warheads. "We're going old school." The nuclear detonations temporarily drove back the extra-dimensional predators, buying them precious time. Philip used the reprieve to re-establish contact with the surviving ships, coordinating a defensive perimeter. On the main view screen, Philip watched with mounting dread as Drake's splinter faction resumed their assault. Genesis Cedars streaked across the void, their impacts birthing writhing hellscapes that spread like cancer across barren worlds. "Sir?" his science officer called out, her voice trembling. "Those things, they're not just random mutations. There's a pattern, a consciousness behind it all." Philip studied the data, a plan forming in his mind. "If they're connected," he mused, "then maybe we can cut them off at the source." He outlined his audacious strategy to the fleet commanders, overloading the Genesis Cedars to engulf the entire realm in a cosmic, reformatting pulse. It was a long shot, but their only hope of survival. "General Madigan," Philip addressed the grizzled veteran, "I need your best for a strike team. We have to take control of Drake's seed ship." Madigan nodded grimly. "Consider it done, sir." Philip watched from the bridge as Madigan's team launched their assault. He coordinated the Loyalist fleet in a feint attack, drawing Drake's forces away from their true target. The bridge rocked as enemy fire peppered their shields, but Philip held steady. "Madigan's team has breached the seed ship," his comms officer reported. Minutes crawled by like hours as Philip awaited word of their success. Suddenly, a blinding flash erupted from Drake's vessel. The cosmic pulse rippled outward, reality itself seeming to buckle in its wake. Philip shielded his eyes as the wave washed over them. When he looked again, the monstrosities plaguing their ships had vanished. But their victory was short-lived. "Sir, spatial anomalies forming," his sensor officer cried out. "The pulse! It's destabilized local space-time." Philip watched in horror as cataclysmic rifts tore open around them, swallowing both Drake's faction and the bulk of the Loyalist fleet. He barked orders for evasive maneuvers, but it was too late. The ship lurched sickeningly as it was caught in the rift's gravitational pull. For an eternity compressed into heartbeats, Philip's world became a maelstrom of swirling energy and fractured reality. When it finally subsided, he found himself staring out at an unfamiliar starfield. "Where are we?" he asked, his voice hoarse. His navigation officer shook her head, bewildered. "Unknown, sir, but I'm detecting plasma trails. Alien vessels." Philip's blood ran cold as he recognized the energy signatures. "It's them," he whispered. "The Alliance." He took a deep breath, steeling himself for what lay ahead. "All right, people, we're in hostile territory now. Let's find out who else made it through and start looking for a place to dig in." As the crippled frigate limped through the void, Philip's mind raced with possibilities. They were utterly alone in an alien realm, hunted by forces that had nearly annihilated humanity once before. But they had survived the impossible, and he'd be damned if he'd let his people fall now. "Sir," his sensor officer called out, "I'm picking up something. 2 habitable worlds in a nearby system." Philip studied the readouts, a spark of hope kindling in his chest. "Set a course," he ordered, "but keep us under full stealth. We don't know what's waiting for us out there." The frigate accelerated, carrying the last remnants of humanity towards an uncertain future in this strange new universe. The frigate's sensors pinged, alerting Philip to 2 habitable worlds nestled in a nearby system. As they approached under full stealth, tension coiled in his gut. The twin planets hung in the void like glittering jewels, a tantalizing promise of sanctuary. But sanctuary came with strings attached. "Sir," his communications officer called out, "we're receiving a transmission. It's Admiral Zaris." Philip's expression resolute. He'd expected pursuit, but not this soon. "On screen," he ordered. Zaris's alien features filled the view screen, her compound eyes gleaming with calculated intelligence. "Admiral Garrett," she purred, "I see you found our little surprise." "What game are you playing, Zaris?" Philip demanded. "No game," she replied. "An offer. Those worlds are yours, recognized as sovereign human territory. In exchange, you relinquish all Anahil technology." Philip's mind raced. It was too good to be true, and yet, why? He pressed. "Insurance," Zaris admitted. "Your people are resourceful. Better to have you as potential allies than eternal enemies." Before Philip could respond, alarms blared. A massive alien armada dropped out of hyperspace, dwarfing both their fleets. Zaris, a guttural voice boomed over the comms. You dare betray us? The alien admiral's eyes widened in genuine fear. Craxus, she hissed. Us, chaos erupted. Energy beams lanced between ships as Craxus's reinforcements opened fire indiscriminately. Philip barked orders, coordinating with Zaris's remaining loyal vessels to form a defensive line. Through the maelstrom of battle, Philip watched in horror as Craxus's dreadnoughts unleashed plasma bombardments on the helpless colony worlds. Millions of lives hung in the balance. Sir, his tactical officer shouted, incoming transmission from Admiral Zaris's flagship. The alien's face appeared once more, blood seeping from a grievous wound. Garrett, she gasped, use the codes. A data packet flashed across his console. Override protocols for the celestial engine. With her final breath, Zaris had given him the key to salvation. Philip's fingers flew across the controls, inputting the complex sequence. The ancient Anahil artifact known as the Cosmic Subjugator hummed to life, its power building to impossible levels. All ships brace for impact, Philip roared. Reality itself seemed to shudder as the weapon discharged. An otherworldly pulse rippled outward, magnifying the dimensional instabilities left in the wake of their earlier battles. Space-time fractured and buckled. Through viewports and sensor readings, Philip watched in awe as the entire solar system was wrenched from its cosmic moorings. Stars blurred into streaks of light as they hurtled through a corridor of twisted dimensions. When the turbulence finally subsided, they found themselves in an alien starfield. Of Craxus's genocidal armada, there was no sign. Only the gas giants of their solar system remained, the inner planets obliterated by the cosmic upheaval. Status report, Philip ordered, his voice hoarse. We've suffered heavy losses, sir, his XO reported grimly. But we're alive, somehow. As the remnants of their battered fleet regrouped, Philip received an urgent hail. On one channel, the AI Artemis advocated caution and rebuilding. On another, General Madigan pushed for aggressive expansion using their remaining Anahil weapons. Philip closed his eyes, feeling the weight of humanity's future on his shoulders. When he opened them, purpose burned in his gaze. Plot a course for Saturn, he commanded. It's time we forged a new path.
You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel. And for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.